The Brooklyn Nets lose 3 straight games, and now the question is, will they even be able to compete tonight in Dallas against the Mavericks with 4 top-tier players out due to injury? Luckily for them, though, they've got Michael Porter Jr. back in the lineup. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the Brooklyn Boys Show, the #1 Nets podcast on YouTube. We appreciate you all right here with us. Hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. More importantly, interact with us in the comment section. Questions, comments, reactions all go there for us to chat about a little bit later into the episode. I have been radio silent the last couple of days, had a busy weekend, but we're right back at it. Thought I could fit a nice pregame show in here before a pretty late start for us East Coasters, 8:30 tip in Dallas. So I thought, why not? Good opportunity to get a show in, and we'll take you right up to tip-off in Dallas, as I mentioned, at 8:30 against the Mavericks. But let's talk about where the Nets are coming from before we deep dive into this game, the keys, and a very extensive injury list to look at and break down. So where the Nets are right now, they have been on a slide since that last Denver game, their most recent loss to Memphis, a game where they were up 8 with 3 or so minutes to play, and then they give up a 12-0 run to end that game, including Memphis grabbing 2 huge offensive rebounds right there down the stretch to cement the win, to give them extra possessions, and that's what Brooklyn really couldn't afford to happen, and it ended up happening. So that was a big emphasis for Jordy Fernandez. I'm really looking forward to seeing if that could be a fix in this game and moving forward, because that's the thing about a season that you have as guys as young as this. You can make mistakes like that. You can afford to make mistakes like that, especially in a season where, at the end of the day, the goal probably is to get the best pick possible, and that is by losing basketball games. So you certainly can afford to make mistakes like that. The question is, though, are you able to respond the next night? And so that's something I'm really looking forward to tonight, seeing how Brooklyn responds to a tough stretch. This is a very, very busy month of January for them. They're tied for the league lead in games, I believe, with 18 this month, coming off of a very, very dull December where they only played 11 or so. So you're going from 2 to 3 games per week to 4 games per week with 2 back-to-back. So it's a very busy, busy schedule for the Nets. How they handle that has to do with coaching. How they handle that has to do with the resilience of the players. And that is something that we'll certainly be looking forward to, the resiliency of the squad down in Dallas. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to today. But also just closing out games, and more specifically, even halves better. The Nets all season long have been a team that has been prone to giving up runs, especially when your #1 scorer, Michael Porter Jr., isn't in the game at times. Cam Thomas is also out tonight on the injured list. He's resting. What that means will break down. Could a potential trade be in the works? I'm not sure. But when you have a guy like Cam Thomas out there who's willing to shot chuck, and he's not out there tonight, that means that offense, whether it's a good offense or a bad offense, needs a leader on the floor without Michael Porter Jr. So where does that come from? Who's able to step up on both ends of the floor for Brooklyn should be huge. And we've seen sort of a trusted role shift into the hands of Day'Ron Sharpe recently. Where does Nick Claxton fit into this equation is a very, very interesting question. And going up a Dallas team that can live in the paint if they want to. We saw it the last time Brooklyn played Dallas against the Mavericks. I believe it was back in early December. Cooper Flag just went off 20-plus points. He looked great. He had a couple blocks on the defensive end of the floor, was hitting good shots, and was showcasing the skill sets that come with being the #1 pick in this year's NBA draft, and showing the Dallas fans a little bit of what they can look forward to with a fully healthy lineup. Hint, hint, they are not even close to fully healthy today, as AD suffers yet another one of those fragile injuries that, man, you got to start feeling for the guy. At this point, it doesn't matter what city he's in. It doesn't matter what coach he's under. The fragile injuries are holding Anthony Davis back from being an all-time great NBA basketball player, because he does have the skill set to be, But man, his inability to stay on the court is going to be the headline of his career, probably until it finishes out, because you're not getting any younger from here. It's harder to get healthier as you grow older. So that'll be very, very important for the rest of his career. But let's be honest. When you look back to the game against Memphis, in the long run, losing these games are probably going to get better. And it's a very interesting discussion. We always talk about pro tank, anti tank. How do you want to root? But let's be real. The Nets were up 8 with 3 minutes to play, and they lost the game. So, glass half full versus glass half empty perspective, you could say, well, how did the Nets lose that? That's bad coaching down the stretch. They need to fix that. The players aren't good enough, yada, yada, yada. Go on and go on. Or you could just say the Nets were up 8 with 3 minutes to play, and they somehow lost the game to help their tanking odds. You get the best of both worlds where the team is not only competitive, they're playing really well for most of the game, and it's the final 3 minutes that the Nets play their worst basketball and that just so happen to be the most impactful against the Grizzlies. The Nets climbed out of a 16-point deficit. There's certainly some positives to take away from that game, but if you're just going to look at the final score and say, okay, 103-98, this team needs to be better than that, I don't really think that's where Nets fans should have their heads at. And Dallas is a 14-25 team. The Nets 11-25. So they're tied in the loss column. Dallas has played a couple more games, but this Mavericks team can be a very, very scary team for how brutal their record is. And I don't mean scary as in contender, but I mean can really give you a run on a night in, night out basis. And it's led by Cooper Flagg, who we already talked about. But don't let the record at 14-25 fool you. The Dallas Mavericks have pieces, have an ability to compete, and as a fully healthy team can really grow into something. That's obviously not what we're going to see tonight against Brooklyn. That's probably not what you'll see this Mavericks team be all season long. And that's just the unfortunate reality of the injuries they've been facing. But man, a fully healthy Mavericks team, you saw them go to the finals with Luka Doncic. Obviously, that got blown up pretty prematurely if you ask anybody in the Dallas market. But still, just to understand how far this team is from their reality right now compared to when they're fully healthy, it's pretty eye-opening. And as Nets fans from the big three with all those injuries, with all those off-the-court issues, I think we can relate to probably what some Mavs fans are feeling right now. Hit like and hit subscribe if you're tuned in with us live. Questions, comments, let's get those rolling over in the chat for us to react to. That's the best way to support the show. Of course, if you haven't done so, if you're watching on Twitter, hop over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It pushes out our content to more fellow Nets fans and only helps us grow this community. The Nets' last win was a week from yesterday against the Nuggets, where MPJ manhandled his former team. Since then, it's been an overtime loss to Orlando, a regulation loss to Los Angeles, a game that the Nets were never, ever competitive in, and then the aforementioned Grizzlies game, where Brooklyn cannot stay competitive either. Make sure to get questions, comments, thoughts in the building, as Jason does. He says, what's up? Let's go Nets. How you doing, Jason? Good to see you in the building, as always. And good to see all of you here. That's what it means to grow this community. But let me get back to my original point, because up 8, 3.5 to play, and you lose that game, you say, well, how influential can it be out of an 82-game scale? But look at it and open it up on a deeper level. This Nets team with that loss, really stays right in the clump there, 2 games behind that number 2 pick. So Washington, as we mentioned, is looking to get aggressive with the Trae Young trades. We'll see how much he's actually on the floor for them, if at all. But Sacramento and New Orleans, the pick that'll become Atlanta's via the swap, that is actually only 2 wins away. So when you look at it from that direction, the Nets have been losing games recently, and you see a team like Dallas sliding up a little bit. Charlotte's been sliding up off the backs of great play by Con Knipple. Los Angeles is sliding up. This one game in the grand scheme of things can really, really mean a lot. So again, I'm not one of these pro tankers. I don't root for my team to lose any game they play, but I get it. If you want this team to have the best odds at landing a top-tier prospect, I cannot blame you, and you are probably celebrating the way that game ended. last night, or rather yesterday afternoon, down in Memphis, because you got the best of both worlds with a very, very competitive and good-looking team completing a comeback of 16 points, taking a lead, and then eventually falling short. So, in the long run, that question is still to be debated. But let's talk about something that we know is coming up, and that is in about 30 minutes when the Nets travel to Dallas to take on the Mavericks. Fellow rookie Cooper Flagg gets to welcome the Nets back into the Dallas building for the second time this season. I mentioned it. He had a big game against Brooklyn last time. Really looking forward to how he can maneuver and handle himself on a court against an injury-riddled Nets team and with an injury-riddled squad around him, So a lot of missing pieces on both sides really makes this a chess match between Jordy Fernandez and Jason Kidd, between I think the benches are going to play a vital role in this game, as we've seen it all year for Brooklyn. Bench minutes, bench points have been make or break for this team. You're talking about a couple guys coming in off the bench, giving you a spring, a jolt of energy, and all of a sudden you run a 12-0 run off guys that you wouldn't expect to be contributing that much in the lineup. Or you're talking about a situation where Brooklyn calls to their bench and they're giving up 13, 14 nothing runs. They're not defending well, and there's no camaraderie on the court. So we've seen both worlds this season from Brooklyn. The question is which side shows out in this game. And I think the same thing can be said for Dallas, a very, very thin lineup all around. And the difference is that's the way the Mavericks have been playing all season. We'll look at the injury report and we'll dive in, but a lot of these names are showing up again and again. So Dallas is at this point used to having to go very, very deep into their bench. Luckily for the Brooklyn Nets, the only significant and sustainable injuries have been Haywood Highsmith, who hasn't played a game yet. Cam Thomas missed 2 months. That's just about it. Everybody else has been missing a couple days here and there. There hasn't really been that huge game-changing injury for the Nets, but you get a little bit of a taste of what that would be like. Thankfully, Nets haven't had to deal with all that this season, but you will get a taste of what that would be like, because 4 guys out. No Yegor will be huge. No Cam Thomas. He's resting. But the most important part is Michael Porter Jr. So when you talk about guys thriving in a bench role for Brooklyn, yeah, okay, go out there, compete. This team is built off the bench, to be honest with you. For Dallas, I don't think that's the way they want it to be, but they've been forced into that role time and time and time again. The question is, does it shine through again tonight? The reason they've been able to snag a couple of those wins. A guy that played a massive role the last time these two teams met was Anthony Davis. It was single-digit games for him at that point into the season, because obviously he started off with an injury. When you say AD, you almost have to say injury in the same sentence, or it's some sort of improper English grammar at this point. But let's go ahead and take a look here at this injury list, and we'll start off with the Nets. Yegor Dioman is out with a slew of things. They're putting him down for the injury management for the left plantar fascia, but let's be real. This team just doesn't want a guy who has had lingering back problems playing in a back-to-back that, by the way, I mean, this is pretty rude of the NBA schedule makers. A back-to-back, both games on the road, one starting at 3 p.m. local and one starting at 8:30 local. So not only do you have to inter-city travel between these two, but by the time the game is over in Memphis, you are looking at less than 24 hours. So very, very not nice by the NBA schedule makers, because the Nets have a lot of back-to-backs here in the month of January. As you mentioned, a battle-tested team that will continue to have to go through it. So Yegor Dioman's out with injury management, and I guess they just marked down everybody with injury illness at this point, except for obviously the G League guys. Liddell and Saraf are down. CT has injury management stuff as well, and then Zaire Williams is out with illness. So that's pretty big. Zaire's a guy that you could turn to when you need some solid bench minutes. But let's get into the meat of the bone here, and that is Cam Thomas. Yesterday, when Michael Porter Jr. sat for the Brooklyn Nets, I heard rumblings that, this was because there was a deal being worked out actively involving him in a blockbuster trade with Golden State. Heck, we even had Jake from State Farm tweeting out on Twitter that he heard the rumblings of a massive trade between the two. Turns out MPJ is right back in the starting lineup, but Cam Thomas is not. So interesting to see that they're flip-flopping these two. You would think if the Nets have the interest of losing games, if that is part of the reason why this quote-unquote injury management is happening in these games, you'd think they'd want to sit them out at the same time to even further minimize their odds of losing games. But maybe this says something about how Jordy Fernandez feels in putting these two guys out on the court at the same time. We've obviously seen a ton of Cam Thomas on the bench this year. Let's be real. The mindset, the attitude, the body language are subpar in the nicest way possible. They're terrible, if you want me to be genuine and keep it real with you. He does not want to be here. So, a couple more of these, and I'm starting to think that it's because of trade calls coming in. But for now, I don't want to jump to conclusions and say, oh, it's definitely, Cam Thomas is getting his name rung up for. Because at this point, we talked about LA being a desperate destination. They've really turned things up recently enough. Like, the Clippers have gotten much, much better since the Cam Thomas trade talks have been rumbling. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. So they are flying head and shoulders above the rest of the bottom 10 right now in the NBA. And they're hot. They're a hot basketball team. You saw when they went to Brooklyn Saturday night and just took a 15-point lead in the first quarter and literally never gave that up. Went wire to wire and manhandled the Nets night in and night out. So you're talking about that being an A-tier destination for Cam Thomas. That's probably off the board because, as the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So now you're very, very limited, as if enough teams didn't want to deal with this guy's locker room problems. Now you're talking about the number one contender dropping off the list. It just gets more concerning for Cam Thomas day by day. He'll be out tonight against the Mavericks. And then, as I mentioned, Zaire also with illness. For the Mavericks, the big names, Anthony Davis, that left finger, which in a game against the Jazz, I believe, who was it, Markkanen drove past him and just literally brushed him. And he's out. You can't make this stuff up. You really, really cannot make this stuff up. Kyrie Irving, obviously, coming off of the brutal season-ending injury last year. And then out and doubtful, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, Brandon Williams, Dante Exum are all out or doubtful. And those are guys that can give Dallas very valuable minutes. Washington, Lively, Exum. Exum's been out for a while. And Lively has as well. But Washington and Williams are two guys that can give Dallas some very, very valuable minutes. And now the question becomes, how does Brooklyn take advantage of this? Because in the first meeting between these two teams, they didn't. Does that change now that the Nets have gotten a chance to test them once? Does that change now that maybe the coaching is different? Or rather, the coaching styles are different with these new ways of life, you could say, with all these injuries. It's very interesting. And again, coaching adjustments are what you want to see in this game. Good schemes, getting players open. But man, this just feels like a game where you have the potential for Nolan Traore, Drake Powell, a couple of those guys to get their signature Nets moment to start their rookie year. Let's get into the rookies a little bit more right after this. Right after you hit subscribe. But more importantly, be like Jason. Get in on the action. Questions, comments, thoughts. Those get thrown in the chat for us to react to. We got about 20 more minutes here before game time. So at this point, I'm going as long as you guys want me to. You want me to keep going? Go ahead, give questions, comments, thoughts over in the chat, reacting to anything and everything you have to say related to the Brooklyn Nets. If you're ready to go, that's fine too. We will wrap up here within the next, couple of minutes, but let's hit on the rookies first before we do that. So stay with us right here on the program. Why is Ben Soroff not up for this game? Like, seriously. I mean, could you think of a better time for Ben Soroff to get serious minutes with the Nets? He hasn't been up in a month plus. He has been all G League all the time. He had that 40-plus point performance on Long Island and then was called up for like a day and then was forgotten about. I mean, seriously, let's get Ben Soroff some serious run. Sure, EJ Liddell, that's perfectly fine with me. I don't care. Go ahead, send him down. I guess for some reason they felt the need for Tyson Etienne to be active, but not Soroff. And all the other rookies are up here getting valuable minutes. And Wolf, Traore, Powell, I expect will all have huge games today. No Yegor, no Cam Thomas. Let's go. Step up, know your role, step into it, embrace it, and play well. And that's how you earn more minutes at this level. And that's how you solidify yourself here. But Ben Soroff just isn't being given that same opportunity. I'm really not sure what it is or what they feel the need to keep him down on Long Island for. Maybe they really recognize something that his developmental process needs to be halted down there for. But let's not kid ourselves. This guy was the starting point guard of the Brooklyn Nets on opening night this year. He showed problems. He was turnover prone. He had trouble handling the ball. The shot selection wasn't where he wanted it to be. All true. But also at the same time, this is a guy you really want to develop into something big, as is the case with all 5 of these rookies. A guy that you really want to develop well. Get him some NBA run when you need to. Second night of a back-to-back, guys might be on minutes restrictions. Guys might be tired. It's not easy to do this in the NBA, to travel around inner city like this and play 2 games in 24 hours. And the team's lost 3 straight. Got to make some sort of adjustment, right? I've never heard of a team just running out the same thing and not making adjustments after continuously losing basketball games. Let's go. I don't understand why Ben Soroff isn't in the lineup today. That is shocking. I cannot think of a better time to get him in. I really can't. So it boggles my mind, baffles me, whatever adjective you need to use. Why in the world this guy wouldn't be here up with the Nets right now, and why they didn't feel the need to continue him on Long Island. Like, let's look at the Nets schedule. Let's look at the Long Island Nets schedule and really see what he's down there for. The Nets' next game is Wednesday and then Sunday. Oh, well, they're playing right now against the Kings, so I take it back. They're up 43-38 after winning against the Kings. Let's see what Soroff's doing, since they felt it's so important to keep him down there. Grant Nelson. Let's see here. Grant Nelson has a handful of points. 13 is the leading scorer. Ben Soroff with 6 points. 6 points for Ben Soroff. 3 of 8 from the field, 0 of 1 from deep. 1 rebound, 2 assists, and a turnover. Okay, so not pretty. Maybe you start to see why. But let's go. I mean, if the development really needs to be hindered, I understand that. There just doesn't feel like a better time for him to get in-game run with this team at the NBA level. All right. Keep it rolling in the chat. Get questions, comments, thoughts in there if you haven't done so yet. Last call before we begin to wrap up on the show. It's kind of a weird week in the sense that the Nets are playing multiple times, so we'll do at least a Wednesday show. Nets play Monday, Wednesday, Thursday this week, and obviously they played yesterday, so we'll have a Tuesday show for you. We'll have a Thursday show for you. There might be a pregame, there might be a postgame slotted in, but as always, of course, for live and short form content, and as well as pre-post halftime analysis, follow the Instagram, the _Brooklyn Boys, and follow our Twitter. I'm the main one posting over there on Twitter, so just me at Josh Wolver. All right, that is all I have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We took you up to 15 minutes until tip-off. Games airing live on the Yes Network. Pre-game coverage, I'm sure, is already underway with the crew there, but that is all I have for you. I'm signing off from Brooklyn. I'm Josh Wolver saying have a great night, everybody. Get ready and buckle up for a great game down in Dallas. And as always, let's go Nets. Good night, everybody. Subscribe and like. Peace.